Well, let's finish up our discussion on the Constitution by looking at constitutional reform. Are there some ideas out there that we should be looking at, and maybe we should be amending the Constitution? One few examples. Looking at modern views of constitutional reform, perhaps we need to reduce the separation of powers to enhance national leadership. In other words, give the national government more power. It seems like, in some people's minds that national problems become urgent problems that remain unresolved, that we should make the president more powerful, more accountable to produce better policies. Government agencies are exposed to undue interference from lobbyists, especially state government lobbyists. Maybe we need to enhance national powers to take care of some of those problems. Proposals might include that choosing cabinet members from Congress as a way of getting more cooperation between Congress and the president. Perhaps maybe allow the president to dissolve Congress like you have in parliamentary governments, where when gridlock just continues to happen between Congress and the executive branch, let the president dissolve Congress and call for new elections. Maybe we should empower Congress to require a special presidential election. Again, with gridlock, perhaps Congress, looking at what parliaments do, they would have a vote of no confidence with the president and call for new elections as soon as possible. Maybe require presidential congressional teams that somehow have them accountable to coming up with better policies. Perhaps a single 6 year term for president. And that way the president doesn't have to look at concern about being reelected. That one single 6 year term, uh, if you want to look at it for as a means of term limits, maybe that would be a solution to what oftentimes happens in the president's first 4 years, that they're too much concerned about reelection. Maybe we should lengthen the terms in the House to 4 years. 2 years just isn't long enough for them to get some of their policies done. Contrary arguments, results uncertain, maybe it'll just make things worse. In other words, don't fix what ain't broken. Perhaps making the system less democratic. Maybe government does too much, not too little. Look at individual wants over general preferences. Proposals to that regard limit the amount of taxes that are allowed to be collected. Requiring a balanced budget. A balanced budget amendment has been tried before, maybe it should be tried again. Grant President a true line item veto where he or she would be able to veto particular parts of a bill and keep the rest. Narrow the authority of the federal courts, that they can no longer legislate from the bench. Problems are, is it unworkable? Is it open to evasion? You can have these ideas, but they just end up with too many loopholes. So who's right? Well, I look at it and others have looked at it, decide nothing now. Crucial questions have always been, how well has it worked in history? Again, do we really want to fix something that isn't broken? How well has it worked in comparison with other constitutions? Ours has lasted more than 225 years. In regards to other republics, ours has lasted the longest. Again, why do we necessarily want to change? Maybe what we would have would be worse than the problems that we have now. Well, back in 1787, these delegates got together in the Philadelphia Convention. They managed to get this document written. They, over a 2 year period, managed to get it ratified. These framers are indeed a incredible group of men who managed to get a constitution for the greatest nation in the world. I've had the high privilege of visiting Philadelphia many times, and I never go there without going to Independence Hall and just stand there, and oftentimes just sit there and look at where these men managed to argue and debate the Constitution and come up with such a fine document. My hero James Madison sat in the chair directly in front, nearest the camera at the center, taking notes during the convention, having brought the Virginia plan to the convention. At the end of the convention, Ben Franklin made the point that he oftentimes sat there looking at the president's chair and wondering the symbol on the back of the chair, was it a rising or a setting sun? And at the end of the convention, Franklin is said to have made the statement that he now knows that it's a rising sun, that the nation had a new foundation. When the convention let up and the delegates left, on the street outside, a couple of citizens of Philadelphia stopped and asked Dr. Franklin, "So what type of government do we have?" And Dr. Franklin looked at these two citizens and said, "A republic, if you can keep it." The point being that the only way that this government works is if the people, we the people, manage to keep it alive. And just to make sure that throughout all this discussion on the Constitution that I had, my resources were properly in place. My favorite resource and my best resource was Dr. Franklin himself. Thank you.